can't crack myself up. I still haven't found my first Blantons. That's different. I really like that. They're like together, like peas and carrots. That's funny. Sometimes accidents are good things. Peychauds or Pechauds or Pechaw. This is not what I expected. Hey, it's Thursday. Hello, hello, hello. Happy almost St. Patrick's Day. This is our St. Patrick's week. Kevin's with us. Hi, Kevin. How are you? I'm glad you're here. We are going to be doing Michael Collins tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and get this poured. Michael Collins. His story starts in a unique way when his 60-year-old father, the seventh son of a seventh son, married his 23-year-old bride. 60 years old, 23-year-old bride. He sired 8 kids. Michael was the youngest boy. And on his deathbed, Michael's father said he's going to go on to do great things. When he died, his mother became the person who ran the farm, the whole farming operation, and took care of those 8 kids. Michael Collins himself, he was a bit of a fighter. He wrestled in school and took great joy in wrestling kids that were bigger and older than him, and he would normally win. His family called him the Big Fellow, and he evidently had quite the temper. Imagine that, an Irishman with a temper. Saw himself as a revolutionary, a patriot, and was passionate about Irish independence from Great Britain. When he was 23, he got his first taste of battle in the Easter Uprising, which was an early conflict between those who wanted Irish independence from Britain and those who did not, among other things. That event didn't really go very well for him. Collins got arrested, taken to a concentration camp where he miraculously escaped. A little bit of deception, and he got around and he got out. Now, he was in it. He rose to become a leader in the independence movement and didn't shy away from what we'll call mostly peaceful protests. Wink, wink. Huh. He wasn't afraid to break a few windows. When the Irish War of Independence broke out in 1919, Collins was fully engaged. He was elected basically. Hey, Jordan, how are you, sir? He was elected basically to be president of the Irish Republic, of the separatists. They decided to wage war against the British authority, but they didn't do it in a conventional way. They did it as guerrilla warfare. You could call it today terrorist acts, the way that they kind of went around it. They would get in, and they'd cause their havoc. They'd hurt people, kill people, whatever, and then sneak back out. Today they would call that terrorism. But back then they called it guerrilla warfare, and that's how they waged that war. And they did it because they weren't really sure that Ireland wanted to go to war as a country. The public wasn't in favor of it, but they did want their independence. At least a lot of them did. So, Collins created a special assassination unit called the Squad, and the Brits put a $10,000 bounty on his head, wanted dead or alive. Skipping way ahead. 2 years later, a treaty was signed that kind of made parts of Ireland a little bit like Canada is today, where it's sovereign, but it still has some sort of connection to Great Britain. That's the way Ireland would have been under this treaty. Well, some people didn't like it, and some people did. People who liked it didn't want to go to war. The people who didn't like it wanted to be independent. Michael Collins he's kind of sold out, and he was riding both sides there for a while. He signed on to this treaty, and the people that were behind him in the IRA, the Irish Republican Army, were not with him on this. They wanted independence, and he sold out and said, let's avoid war, and didn't do it. Well, he started to stride that fence. The country went into civil war, and he kind of stayed on both sides. He tried to get the pro-treaty people and the anti-treaty people to kind of work together, and it didn't really work out very well. And one day, he was headed to his hometown just to check on some things. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let somebody else tell the rest of that story.
Collins and his men didn't realise anti-treaty IRA leaders were meeting in the Bernabla area that day, so Collins drove right into a hornet's nest. So when the Collins convoy came in then, there was an exchange of shots between the men removing the mines and Michael Collins' men, and the anti-treaty IRA lads got off the road, up onto the high road, and they opened fire down onto Michael Collins' convoy. And when Michael Collins' car came around the bend where the monument is now at Bernabla that evening, the windscreen of the car was shattered, the side panels were also hit with bullets, and Dalton next to Collins gives the order, drive like hell, but Michael Collins reaches forward, he taps the driver on the shoulder and he says, no, stop and we'll fight them. All the vehicles stopped, all of Michael Collins' men jumped out, returning the fire. Now at that stage, the anti-treaty IRA men were being chased up on the high road, which overlooked the road where the Collins convoy was travelling on. They were being chased up there, the anti-treaty lads, by Collins' men from the truck in front of the convoy. And for a while, the anti-treaty lads were trapped up on that high road between the machine gunner and the armoured car, firing his Vickers machine gun at them, and Michael Collins' men were behind them on foot. But the next thing, the machine gun and the armoured car jammed. And that's when the IRA began to run off opposite Michael Collins up on the high road, and he went following them along the lower road. And at one stage, Michael Collins fired a few shots with his rifle from behind the armoured car, and then seeing the anti-treaty IRA lads running off up on the hill in front of him, Collins shouts forward to his men, look lads, they're running up the road. And then he steps out Michael Collins onto the open road. And he was shot in the head, standing, firing his rifle off the shoulder, about 15 yards behind the armoured car. They ran around the back of the armoured car and they found Michael Collins lying on the road, his head resting on top of his rifle, his cap had fallen off, and there was this massive gaping wound the size of your fist above and behind his right ear. A few minutes later, Michael Collins' men took him out on the side of the road in a forward, safer position, and it was there while they were bandaging his head and saying the act of contrition into his ear that they suddenly noticed Michael Collins' face go pale. He closed his eyes and he was gone.
He was 32 years old when that happened, and he had lived a long, rich, full life, even at just only 32 years of age. He lied in state for 3 days. They said tens of thousands of people visited his casket as it lied in state, and they said that 500,000 people went to his funeral, which was about a fifth of the size of the population of Ireland at the time. Pretty amazing. So anyway, that's the story of Michael Collins. You can read a lot more about him online. There's all sorts of stuff about it. And did he grow up, as his father predicted, to be a great man? Depends on what side of the movement you're on, I suppose. Even in the United States, we still have people that consider themselves on the Confederate side of things, and you know, are a bit salty about the fact that the North won. You know, so it's I'm sure it's something that's still a hot topic. As I was growing up, I still remember there being conflicts over things in Ireland and the IRA and all those things. So, okay, so that leads us to this, the drink. Here's what Sazerac, the owner of Michael Collins Whiskey, says. Upon his deathbed, Michael Collins' father made a prediction about his youngest son. One day he'll be a great man and do great things for Ireland. Michael Collins lived up to his father's prophecy and is often called the greatest Irishman that ever lived. The prediction pays tribute to his revolutionary hero, made with only the finest Irish whiskies, this dark and brooding blend. What? Of triple distilled, pot still, grain, and malt whiskey is a rebellious, I guess, and innovative contribution to the Irish whiskey category. From what I understand, there was a Michael Collins brand that started in 2006 and got squeezed out. What's the name of the Beam? Now it's Beam Suntory, but Beam bought the distillery that was supplying the whiskey to the Michael Collins company. When Beam bought that distillery, the Cooley distillery, Beam stopped supplying Michael Collins' company with the juice. So they got squeezed out and put out of business. We don't know why. They said, no juice for you. But that's what they did. Now, fast forward to 2015, and Sazerac announces plans to revive the brand. They don't have any distilleries in Ireland of their own, but they do source it from people who make Irish whiskey. And I don't know who, but that's what it is. 4 types of Irish whiskey. Grain Irish whiskey, produced using no more than 30% malted barley in combination with other whole unmalted cereals, usually corn, wheat, or barley, distilled in column stills. Malt Irish whiskey is produced using 100% malted barley and distilled in pot stills. Pot still Irish whiskey is made from a mash of minimum 30% malted and a minimum of 30% unmalted barley, with up to 5% of cereals added, and is distilled in pot stills. And then blended Irish whiskey is a mixture of any two or more of the styles of malt, pot still, and grain whiskey, and that's what this is. This is a blended Irish whiskey, and they kind of run the gamut of the entire way that everybody makes Irish whiskey. So this is kind of a blend of all of it. Sazerac owned. What time do I need to get in line tonight to get a bottle of this? Well, let me tell you first if it's any good. All right. Another of the Michael Collins brands, it was called Big Fellow Irish Whiskey. Came out a few years ago. I understand they had a 12-year, and it was supposed to be really, really good. This is the one that I found. It's called The Prediction. And not only did his father predict that Michael Collins would be a great man, he would also predict that his sister would become a nun, and she did. How do you like that? All right, so we're going to do this, and we're going to do with a little bit of water. I'm not going to do the ice test tonight because it's Irish whiskey, and I don't do ice with Irish whiskey. It's only 80 proof. You can't expect much out of that. But we do have a drink we're going to make in lieu of the ice, okay? So let's start off. Okay, right away, I would say that I really like the nose on this. Normally, Irish whiskeys, doesn't matter if it's good or not, it's Sazerac, right? Let's stay in line just because it's Sazerac. It's not made at Buffalo Trace, though. They just own it. If you look at the Sazerac website, they own a lot of stuff. Some of it you've never even heard of. So, I don't think it's going to be anything we have to worry about standing in line for, Quinn. So the noses... You know, I had heard that this might be a little bit peated, and I'm sensing perhaps, now maybe it's influence, but maybe a little bit of peat on this. Other than that, the vanillas are really nice. It does have a orange overtone. A little bit of a salted caramel as well. So this is a blend. This is not just single malt. This has probably got some grain whiskey, like probably some corn in it, but it's going to have the two different types of barley. So it's not quite a single malt. All right, for an Irish whiskey, that's got a little bit of a bite to it. Normally, Irish whiskeys are known as being very smooth whiskeys. And generally because, you know, they're triple distilled, they're aged for a long time. The Redbreast is aged 12 years, and that's the bottom line barrel. Bottom of the barrel line, it's... I'll get there. They're generally, a lot of them are 80 proof. So they're very smooth, they don't have much bite. This one, on the other hand, has got some bite to it. For an 80 proof, it punches above that. I am sensing just a very, very, very slight smoke, which could be peat. Could be the barrels, because sometimes this stuff is in, I don't have any information on this with this, sometimes Irish whiskey is aged in old recycled bourbon barrels. I don't know that that would be the truth with this. The color is not showing me that, unless it's been used over and over and over and over again. But there is a chance that what I'm getting here is some peat. It's got a really nice, actually it's got some body to it for an Irish whiskey. That's one of the complaints that I have about it. About the best one that I've had is Jameson, because it's got the most complex flavors, but even then it seems a little bit thin, right? Irish whiskey just kind of seems thin to me. Redbreast didn't bowl me over. I've got Powers back here, I've got McConnell's, I've got Tullamore Dew, which I kind of liked. So I've got quite a few of them back there. I've got the Sexton, and some of those were better than others, but none of them really came out and gave me like a whiskey feel in the mouth. And this one does. This one does. And as far as blends go, this one's pretty nice. It doesn't have that just single malt flavor to it, which can be a little grassy. I don't sense any grassiness in this at all. This is actually quite good. All right, we're going to add some water to it, and then we're going to make a cocktail. By the way, one of my favorite cocktails with Irish whiskey is the Tipperary. So if you get the opportunity to go online and learn how to make the Tipperary, it's Angostura bitters, and it's got vermouth in it, and you strain it. It's just good. It's good. Whoop! I missed something. Let's go over to that. Highly recommend the Redbreast 12-year cask strength. I have not even seen that. I have heard about it, and I know that Redbreast has been doing some experimental stuff with some other people. I do have this one. This is the Kentucky Owl, the St. Patrick's Day edition. Wise Man's Bourbon. I believe this is the one that I thought this is the one. Maybe I'm wrong. I thought this is the one that they blended with Redbreast, but I'm not seeing that on the bottle. Collaboration by Louise McQuain, Irish Whiskey. I can't read that. Blender, bottler, bonder, and John Rhea, master blender. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm not opening this because this is release 1 of 100, or release number 1, and so I'm not going to open this one. If I find another release, I'll open that one, but I'm not going to open this one. So, I know, it's St. Patrick's Day, I should open it, but I'm not going to. All right, did I add water to this yet? I don't remember. There. Okay. A little bit more of the salted caramel coming out. I'm not getting any more necessarily the peat or the oak, whatever that is. If it's peat, it's not very much of it. So if you're hearing me say peat and you're going, I don't want any of that, don't worry. If it's peat, you won't know that it's peat. It just tastes a little bit, just really tastes like a nice toasted oak barrel, to be truthful. I read somewhere that it was peat, and I can convince myself that it's peat, but it doesn't remind me of peat. But it's got some really nice body to it. Excuse me. It's actually quite good. Yeah. It's really good. It's got a little bit of cinnamon on it now. Just kind of hit me. Just like, every time you drink something, sometimes something new will hit you. Just then I got a little bit of a sense of cinnamon on it, which is not something I normally get from an Irish whiskey. So this is actually pretty good. I like this. All right. I'm going to use the same glass. That's why I emptied it. Because I forgot everything else. So we're going to do a cocktail. This is called a Frisky Whiskey. Okay? Frisky Whiskey. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some ice out of here. There we go. And then while I'm at it, I might as well get my Collins glass. Get it? Michael Collins? Collins glass? That was just a coincidence, by the way. Perfect. I would rather drink mellow corn than peat. Really? Dude, I like it. I like mellow corn too, but I like a nice peated whiskey. You would probably never drink Lafroig, but that's like, I've eaten a campfire, and I really enjoy Lafroig. I haven't had it in a while. I need to get back to it again. All right, so 1 ounce. This is not a super heavy drink. This is just a small drink because it's got to fit in a small glass. Hey, Chris, how are you? I'm glad you're here. We're making a cocktail called the Frisky Whiskey using Michael Collins, which we just reviewed, and I find it quite tasty. So 1 ounce of the Michael Collins. Put the cork back on just in case something bad happens. Okay, then I got this Baron Jaeger. This is a honey liqueur. It is available around the state. It wasn't available where I was from, so I actually had my daughter pick this up for me. 1 ounce of that. Wait a minute. I've not tried this yet. I don't like that. Ugh. I'd rather use real honey, but let's see what it tastes like in the cocktail. That was icky. That's nasty. There's a little bit of honey overtone to it, but yeah, I don't like that. I won't do that ever again. That was bad. Yuck. And that was the whiskey. That's the honey whiskey that was recommended. All right, so this is fresh squeezed orange juice. 1 ounce of that. I'll just spill this everywhere. These little these little ball things just suck. All right. Okay. I used to have a rag here. Yes, I still do. Yay! Rag for me being a mess. Yay! All right. Then about 1/4 ounce of simple syrup, and this is some of my homemade simple syrup. So it's going to be delicious, and I bet that's about 1/2 ounce. That'll be all right. Offset the bitterness of that Baron Jaeger. And then a couple of dashes. Oh my gosh. A couple of dashes of, hey Tom, of Angostura bitters. And just give it a little shake. Get it away from the microphone. Good. Pour it over ice in the Collins glass. And this is supposed to be a Frisky whiskey. The instructions did not say I needed to garnish it with anything, so I didn't. Let's try her out. As far as drinks go, that's pretty good. Chris is watching. Hey, Chris. Welcome, sir. This is a Frisky whiskey made with Michael Collins, Baron Jaeger honey liqueur. Put it in a drink. Don't drink it by itself. It was nasty. Some simple syrup, bitters, and the juice of an orange. Yeah. It's better than I thought it would be after trying this. I got to come up with some uses for that now. I've got all sorts of liquor around here that just sits there because I need recipes for it, right? So, all right, so that was the Michael Collins. I'm very impressed with it. It's probably, I might actually say this is my favorite Irish whiskey so far. This is really quite good. If you get a chance to find the prediction, I'd say pick it up. If you are an Irish whiskey fan, and even if you aren't, if you've tried Irish whiskeys and you've been unhappy with them in the past, I would tell you Michael Collins will be a good gamble. Now, next week, or actually tomorrow, not next week, tomorrow, we're going to come back again because it'll be St. Patrick's Day. And back a while ago, we did this one, Green Spot. And it was fine. It was good. I've had some of it. But I recently found the Yellow Spot, and we're going to put the Yellow Spot through its paces tomorrow, and then we're going to compare the two. And we're going to talk more about Yellow Spot, actually the Spot whiskeys. There's a bunch of them. There's four different Green Spots by itself. And then there's a gold and a red and a blue and a yellow. So there's a bunch of different Spot whiskeys. And we're going to be talking about those and putting this one up against that one. And then maybe, if we have time, I'll make a Tipperary. which again is probably one of my favorite Irish whiskey cocktails. I really like that one. So we might do that tomorrow night as well. So that's really about it. I just wanted to go through Michael Collins and tell his history and find out why this is such a nice bottle, and I really like it. Get a chance to pick this one up, this would be a good one to pick up. Okay? Okay. That is it. My gosh, I got all that done and we're less than a half hour. Can you believe that? Did I miss anything? Looks delicious. It actually is pretty darn good. Chris, it's actually quite good. Again, it's an ounce of whiskey, ounce of honey liqueur. I got the Baron Jaeger, orange juice, syrup, simple syrup, and 2 dashes of bitters. I would be curious as to what this would taste like without the honey liqueur, just using either honey simple syrup, which is simple to make. You instead of going half sugar, half water, you do half honey and half water. Or just substituting the honey liqueur for just honey. Maybe instead of using a full ounce, use half an ounce. I tend to think that might be pretty darn good, but I love honey. I don't love the honey liqueur, but I do really like honey, and I think that'd be pretty good. So I'll post this after we're done here. I'll post the recipe, so if you want to make it on your own, you can. You don't need a Collins glass. The irony, you had to use a Collins glass when you're drinking Michael Collins. Come on. All right, guys, we will see you tomorrow night for the Spot Whiskeys. And don't forget to wear green, otherwise, you might get pinched.